Business ownership has never been hotter, but how do you do it? That's where I come in. Allow me to guide you on your journey. Welcome to Ion Franchise. This episode sponsored by SEO Samba. Empower your franchise with predictable results and AI-driven marketing. Coming up on this episode, what can you reveal here today in this proprietary technology or system?
It's awesome. The parents are loving it, the kids are loving it, the school's loving it. I saw a superintendent in a three-piece suit running the track, so it's a lot of fun to see. If being a business owner is something you're interested in, it can be a great outcome. It can be fantastic. It can solve a lot of problems for you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising. I'm your host, Lance Graulich. Well, we're going back to school today. Jamie Krasnov is the CEO of Apex. Here's a guy that 33 years old, super smart, went from private equity to a school fundraising franchise. And we're going to hear all about it today from Jamie. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Hello, Lance. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
I am super excited to have you here. I like smart people talking about their journey to the world of franchising. So why don't you set this up? You left private equity to jump to steer the ship of a school fundraising program. Now, this is not cookie dough or selling donuts or any of the other crazy things. So talk about how'd you get into this in the first place?
Sure. Well, I started my career out in private equity and other investing roles and was investing in all sorts of companies. We talked about it a little bit before this, but software companies, restaurants, hard asset companies, and franchising. And when I was in the investment business, franchising was just about the best industry from a purely financial standpoint. It could grow a lot if you had a good concept that could help entrepreneurs. It could grow at a very high margin and scale very quickly. And once you get it going and you provide a good business model for entrepreneurs, you can really scale it to the roof, right? And you've seen that through a lot of franchises.
Yeah.
When we had this mutual connection, out of all the public-based franchises, there are a couple Hall of Fame businesses. One of them is Wingstop, which I know you spent some time with. Yeah. So shout out to Wingstop. And so I was always just kind of like a fan of the business from afar, but had spent a lot of time in other industries and did that for 10 years. And when I did that for 10 years, we had some success and I got the chance to hang a shingle. And when I was going to hang my shingle, I wanted to do it different than other people. I wanted, instead of to buy 10 businesses, just one business. And we were going to spend all of our time on just one business and not diversify the risk and not take on lots of leverage, but just grow one business really hard. And so I could have invested in any industry. I remembered franchising, based on my kind of investment days. And if we were going to spend all of our time on one business, it didn't just have to make sense financially. It kind of had to make sense in my heart. And the idea of giving an entrepreneur a business opportunity, a ticket to entrepreneurship, like I often say, was it was just so awesome. I mean, just so fun. Yeah. So I 100% focused on franchising when I searched for the business to buy.
Yeah, we talk about changing lives. It's one of our favorite hashtags in our group of brokers with FranServe, because that's really what it does. Typically, we're working with and tell me about Apex and what they're looking for. Typically, we're working with first-time entrepreneurs that get out of a corporate job, some as young as 30 these days. The old days, it was 50-year-olds and it was men. Now it's more women than ever. But again, more they're younger than ever. So tell me what you're seeing these days with Apex and who you're looking for. And then at the same time, why don't you share what Apex is all about for those that never heard of it?
Well, I'll touch on kind of what Apex is all about, and then kind of the folks that we see who make good fits in our system, and just kind of continuing the story from there. When we were looking for the franchisor to buy, we were doing the exact same thing that a lot of franchisees do. They often will look at 3 or 5 businesses. We looked at 3,000 businesses because it was a lot more money, but a lot more time. But we were looking at them just the same way that I think a lot of prospective franchisees look at businesses. We were looking at things like, how profitable is the business? There's something called item 19 that can be helpful, but there are other tips and tricks to understand profitability of these businesses. We were looking at something called validation. How much do the franchisees like being there? How much do they like the ownership group? How much do they like the model? Who's got the best validation, and how can we try to figure that out? And then in addition to that, we were looking for something that solved a big problem and could have effectively unlimited growth for us, for our existing franchisees, and then for new franchisees. And finally, something I wanted to get super passionate about, and we just hit a home run with Apex. We just got, a lot of times when you buy a business, just like when you buy a house, you point at the house that you like, and then you go on to Zillow and you get a house almost as good of it, right? A little bit cheaper, a little bit worse, but almost as good. It's the same in the investing business. You point at an industry that you like, and you look around, you get something almost the best thing, right? And you try to make it the best. When we were lucky, we think we got the best house. We pointed at the house and we got it. So awesome. That was awesome because Apex had such good unit economics for franchisees. It had fantastic validation, and it solved a huge problem, which gave it basically an infinite runway for growth. And so we bought the business. And what Apex does is it solves a huge problem in our school system. And we have 80,000 elementary schools in our country. We have about 150,000 maybe total schools, middle schools and high schools. And every single one of those schools raises money from the community. They get it from the government just a little bit, but they fundraise from the community. And they got all sorts of ways to do that. They do it every month. They do something new. So in January, they'll have the kids go door to door selling cookies and candy. And that's a little friction and dangerous, and it'll raise a few $1,000s. Then in February, they'll have movie night, and everybody will come and give $5. And then in the next month, they'll have an auction. And at the end of that 12 months, they'll raise somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. It'll be a full-time job. And, some of the stuff is good for the community and some of it is maybe less good, like the cookies and candy. And what our franchisees offer is a program that has their athletes, these are our field people inside the field, going into the school for 2 weeks, teaching kids about fitness and leadership for 2 weeks every single day. Super awesome, super healthy, lessons that are needed. And at the end of those 2 weeks, putting on a fun run at the elementary school. And there is a bunch of technology that surrounds that allows that school to 10x whatever they were doing before. So if they were raising $5,000 before, we'll raise them $50,000. If they were raising $10,000, we could raise them $100,000. And we even raised some schools almost $200,000. And if you solve that problem and take a little sliver of that economics for our franchisees' profit model, that school will come back 80 to 90% of the time. So we have very, very high recurring revenue. And a business that solves a big problem with limited competition and has very high repeat business can scale very quickly and provide a really good model for franchisees. And so we've been just getting the word out there, and we think we are we've really increased the size of the business, but we think we could be in 10 times the number of schools, which eventually will be the majority of schools out there.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the franchisee that you're looking for. Does it turn out the most? So let's back up, and I'll have my son. I'm going to clap so my son knows where to edit this thing where I'm screwing up.
Okay.
So my question really is, who is the best type of franchisee for this brand? Is it somebody that just cares deeply for kids? Clearly that's some sort of requirement. Is it somebody that has sales ability? And are most of your franchisees first-time business owners?
Yeah, awesome. All fantastic questions. Super happy you asked, because in the franchising industry, that's really all you're trying to do is find the right brand, find folks where franchising is a good fit, and then find the right brand for them, where their persona or profile will be a good fit for success. And what we find shows up and has success is there are a ton of business people out there, ages, let's say 30 to 60 years old, who are super talented. I mean, they can do everything, especially as they get later in their career. They can do sales, they can do operations, they can build teams, but they're in a structure and an environment or wherever they're at where maybe they're not able to grow, maybe they're not able to utilize those skill set, and as such they don't have the control over their destiny and the outcomes that they want financially or even just experience wise. And those types of entrepreneurs are amazing fit for franchisees or for franchisors. They're amazing fits. And they're amazing fits for franchisors because they're typically, like I said, very talented, and they have two choices. They can go start a business or they can invest in a franchise. And that type of entrepreneur investing in a franchise has a very high likelihood of success. Let's say 80% chance of success. That's very high. Whereas if they start a business, they have maybe a 20% chance of success.
Yeah.
And flipping that on its head and still allowing that entrepreneur to achieve the control that they want, the financial outcome they want, is just a great fit for franchising in general. And
So
then
I
for Apex.
So I have to ask you, Jamie, the private equity guy. Let me give you a third scenario. What about buying an existing business? I hear it all day. Lance, I want to buy an existing business. That is the best way to do it. And there's gurus all over the internet saying there's people that are aging out. They want to sell their business. They still have a fax machine, for God's sakes. And I'm going to find that business. I'm going to put in new technology and I'm going to grow that business. What say you throwing that into this scenario?
I would say two things to that. So if you're going to do that, you might as well build a team of 10 people first. So you got your 10 people on your team. And then you need to quit your job because you cannot do this on the side. So you got your 10 people and you have 2 years of runway and also a ton of capital. And if you can quit your job for 2 years, you can hire a group of 10 people. Hopefully they work for free. You have a shot at it. Not a high shot. You have a shot at it. You have maybe a 30 to 50% shot at acquiring a decent business that could scale. You have a very high chance of buying a horrible business that won't scale, but you have a very small chance of doing that. And even if you get that shot, even if you buy that business, you build that team, you take 2 years off, and you end up on top of that business still needs to scale. And so if you don't have the systems and protocols to hire a salesman or do marketing or whatever, that business isn't going to scale. So it's the outcome can be fantastic, but it requires enormous resources to pull that off. And even if you do pull it off, most of those businesses, they just stay flat with a ton of work. Sometimes they can go to the moon, but it's very rare and very hard to pull that off. A franchise gives you a better chance for that.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So you have some franchise owners that are doing this more or less as a side hustle that aren't full-time in it?
We actually we actually require full-time participation until later. So at the beginning, we recruit these talented entrepreneurs who want to build their own business, be in control of their destiny. And while they're doing that, they want to do right by their community. That's where we see our folks really resonating with our brand. And that's a lot of entrepreneurs. And so they join our system and they work their butts off and let their community know. And then several years down the line, if they've hit the income goals that they have, the business is so recurring in nature that they can take a step back at that point and start to build other assets. Most choose to double down into Apex because it is such an awesome experience. But they have a lot of options when investing in an Apex franchise.
You mentioned ways to share and technology associated with the brand. What can you share without having to kill me or the audience? What can you reveal here today in this proprietary technology or system?
Sure, yeah. So just to make it super clear and easy, when most schools are using cookies and candy for their fundraising activities, and they have the kid go door by door by door by door. And when they hit every door, most people will buy the cookies and candy from them, and they'll give them about $5 to $10. So if you can hit 5 doors, you might be able to raise $25, and the school might be able to profit $10 from that kid. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Instead, what we do is we do the whole thing online. And parents of the child log onto our platform and they upload friends, family, contact members, and our system will communicate with all those folks. It might be five folks, it might be 5 folks, it might be 20 folks. And when those people get communicated that their nephew or niece or grandson or granddaughter are doing a fund run, they don't give $5, they give $50 or $70. And so our technology allows the school to raise way more people at way more amounts that the school can use to invest in things that they may need for this year and next year and the following years.
I love it. That's fantastic. Talk a little bit about marketing. When a franchise owner comes on board, what does that marketing look like to launch in a city that hasn't heard of Apex?
So when Apex comes to a city, let's say we come to, let's say, a small town or even a medium-sized town or a big town, we think that city is in a much better place than they were before. That city now can, if it's a large city, could raise tens of millions of dollars for their schools, which would be a huge benefit for the kids. And they can invest in things that they never thought possible, like some parts of the country are investing in security. Some parts are investing in engineering labs for young ones. It's awesome. Some are investing in shade structures in kind of the southern, more hot areas. Some are buying laptops for every kid. So the ability to reinvest in the school is huge for the kids. It's a huge win, and not just that, the program makes a tangible difference in the experience and culture of the school, which we hear amazing things from parents about kind of their experience with their young ones. So it's a huge gift to that community, and so our franchisees are tasked with letting the school know or letting the community know that we're here. And we're here to help. And so their job involves both digital go-to-market, where emailing and other software that we have that makes it really easy to communicate that we're launching, getting in front of decision makers and us giving them the tools to get in front of schools, get in front of PTAs, and get in front of principals to share what we can do for their school. And it also involves some online marketing, some advertising, that will tell the community that we're there. And all of that together results in a few schools who will work with Apex. And if a few schools see what we're doing, every school is going to choose to work with it. So that's really the effort around onboarding and marketing.
So Jamie, on the corporate side of things, this isn't just parents, the kids and their parents raising money through relatives and friends. There's corporate clients as well, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So on our platform, schools have the opportunity to go to a bunch of businesses all over the community and raise money from them. And their logo, name, advertising can go on our platform and get communicated or advertised to the entire community. So a local pizza shop or even a big pizza shop can donate to the school very easily and get some type of reward for it at the same time. And so the whole thing is just this wonderful thing that helps the schools in such a big way, financially and also just with the leadership and curriculum that we deliver to the schools.
Yeah, now that's fabulous. You mentioned earlier talking about item 19, talking about validation. For those playing at home, I always joke that we have a bingo board and validation is a word on there. FDD, which is franchise disclosure document, and the item 19 is the earnings claim within that. Jamie, why don't you share some highlights of the process? Then we'll talk about the item 19 a little bit, but share some highlights of the process that you're taking prospective franchisees through. Obviously, they have a call with someone, they eventually see the FDD, and there's some validation involved in this, and it's a two-way street. You guys are checking them out, they're checking you out. Talk about that a little bit.
So we get prospective candidates from all over the place because we have a ton of white space. We do a lot in California and are growing rapidly, marching kind of eastward. And we take them through about a 3 to 5 week journey where we try to answer the things we answered when we were looking at the business. So what does the financials look like? What does validation look like? And is this a business you'd be passionate about? And so we run, over those 3 to 5 weeks, we run a 6-step process where they slowly learn more and more, and we learn more about them as well, about what their why is. and we care about their skills, but what we care about is who they are as a person. So we know that they'll fit with our culture and our values. And so we're educating them over these 3 to 5 weeks. It includes speaking to our internal team, speaking to our franchisees, speaking to me, the leader of the brand, about what their why is and how we can structure their experience at Apex to achieve exactly what they're looking for, put them in the best chance to do that. And if they get through all those calls and we like them and they like us, we invite them to our Discovery Day. And we have
Is that in person these days or online?
we do it in person right now. And part of the reason we do it in person is we've got the best Discovery Day out there. I mean, it is like a tearjerker. When prospective franchisees see what we're doing inside of schools, they go to a fun run or they go to what we call classroom days. It's just a lot. I mean, we did it. I did it when I was looking at the brand, and I left thinking I can't leave without the whole business. I mean, it's the same feeling when our candidates come to Discovery Day. And then the other thing is we really get the chance to know them really well, and understand who they are. And it puts us and them in a good position to know if it's a good fit. So we usually do that over 3 to 5 weeks.
That's awesome. And the validation process, do you hand them a list of franchisees and say, call whoever you want? How does that work?
Our franchisees are scaling the business so rapidly right now that we try to protect them from that. And so we host a validation call every 2 weeks, and we have a new franchisee come on every time. And that franchisee just says a few words, and then it's just a free for all. Every question is out there. Whatever they want to do, and we encourage them to really make sure that they ask every single question. We give them ideas on what to ask, and so it's totally free. In fact, we don't even sit on that call. It's between the franchisee and the prospect.
Love it. Talk a little bit about what the investment is. How big of a territory do you get? Is it based on schools? Is it based? I would imagine it somehow is based on schools and kids, and then. How much money can be made in this business? Because I know it's a hot business. So talk a little bit about that item 19.
Well, so we have a great item 19. It's a service-based brand, and it fulfills a big issue in the country. So it's a very low buy-in and a very high revenue, which is growing right now. And because it's a service-based brand, to buy one territory is $100,000, a $50,000 franchise fee, and then an additional $50,000 investment around some equipment, materials, working capital, so on and so forth. A lot of folks may buy 2 territories that would get them to, for example, $150,000. So that's a pretty low buy-in in our industry. Obviously, it's not a brick and mortar, doesn't require build out, and doesn't require a ton of time to open your doors. You could theoretically open day one. And the outcome the franchisee can expect is there's a couple paths it could take. Our AUVs, our average unit volume, is near $800,000. I think it's about $765 to get it on the button, which is pretty good buy-in to AUV. And we have high margin. It's a high margin service business. Yeah. Our average franchisee is doing $150,000 of profit. Owner discretionary income. So if you're investing $100,000 and you're making $150K annually on average, that's pretty good. What we want our franchisees to do is end up in the top quartile, and our top quartile folks will do about 1.7 million, and they'll make about $350,000 in profit. So that's what we're going for, and that's great, and that makes me very happy to help franchisees achieve that outcome. But really, it's a win-win-win. They're winning, fantastic. But the schools that they're serving are winning in a huge way, which allows the school, which incentivizes the schools to bring us back. And the number of kids they affect are winning too. So it ends up being this win-win-win, and that's why it scales so quickly.
So the top franchisees that are doing, let's say, 1.7 million plus. How many schools? How many territories is that? How many schools is that? Or should I say, how many schools does it take to do that kind of business? And how do franchisees actually get paid within this system?
So our franchisees, our top franchisees will buy several territories. They might buy 3 eventually or 4, and they'll serve 100 schools, and so in some cases even more. We have some franchisees serving 200 schools, and so they make a huge impact. And it's just a fantastic just outcome for everybody. And so they'll own 3 or 4 territories, and they'll serve approximately 100 schools. And our franchisees do not get paid unless they perform. So we have this interesting model that the schools really like, whereby we come in and say, if we do not perform, do not even pay us. But if we perform to a certain level, we will take a slice of how we perform for our profit model. And so if we perform incredibly well, it'll be a larger amount of money. And if we perform very poorly, we won't be rewarded. And so we are hand in hand with the schools. That just sets up a really good incentive program for everyone to do really well.
I also love the idea of the community-based, the fun run. Kids are not having to go door to door.
Yes.
And they're exercising, because we all know everybody needs a little more exercise these days. So it's pretty amazing. I love that process.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm at fun runs all the time. I was at one just last week. There were 2,000 people there, 1,000 kids and 1,000 parents, and we're doing thousands and thousands of those every single year. And it's awesome. The parents are loving it. The kids are loving it. The school's loving it. I saw a superintendent in a 3-piece suit running the track. So it's a lot of fun to see.
Talk about labor, staffing. Everybody seems to be scared of staffing and hiring, and it's so hard to find people. I would imagine it's not too difficult to find people to help your franchisees and join their team at Apex.
The folks that join us, we call them athletes, and they may be former college athletes or even pro athletes in some cases, or even high school athletes. But they're usually aged 18 to 35, and they don't have a license to be an electrician, and they don't have a license to be an HVAC operator, and they aren't skilled in painting. And so there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
And they're super high talent people, but there are a lot of them out there. And those young people, they want to work at an organization that fulfills a mission-based organization. And Apex does that in spades. And so they're super attracted to come work for us and work with us. And they're the talent, they're the show, they're what makes it go. And it's a job that can be in high demand. Because it is giving back to the community and resonating.
Jamie, final thoughts, final words of wisdom, words of encouragement for the audience in the franchising space in Apex.
Well, so, I'll just say one thing for everybody. If being a business owner is something you're interested in, and you're in a place where that makes sense for you, it can be a great outcome. It can be fantastic. It can solve a lot of problems for you. And taking the leap of faith and doing that, if you have the amount of energy to do it, can be a very awesome experience. And just as we mentioned before, there are all sorts of ways to do that. You could buy a business, you could start a business, you could franchise. I think franchising is a good option, but any of them could be a good option. And if you're going to go the route of franchising and put yourself in a really high position to be successful, find a brand that you resonate with a leadership team that you resonate with, because those are going to be the things that motivate you. And if you're motivated, you're in a much, much, much more likely position to be successful. And so for all the candidates out there, prospective entrepreneurs, I want to mention that. And for all the franchise people, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to place candidates who want to be entrepreneurs in the right home. And when we do that right, it's just a fantastic experience for everybody.
Jamie, you have been awesome. From private equity to putting the fun back in fundraising. Jamie Krasnov, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Lance. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
If you're ready to talk about franchise opportunities, hit the link below to schedule a call. My services are free. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.